Welcome to Chrono Tales, a place where time, myths, and human nature collide. Here we dive into the forgotten corners of history, the minds of killers, the secrets behind strange events, and the stories too dark to be told anywhere else. Every tale you hear is drawn from the past, from the shadows, and from the people who lived it. So turn down the lights and listen closely. There are men who walk this earth with no place in it, born beneath the same sky as you and I, yet somehow untouched by its warmth. They are drawn to violence the way iron is drawn to a magnet, silently, inevitably. And one of them was the kid. He came screaming into the world under a cold Tennessee moon. His mother died before she could even hold him. His father was a schoolteacher who believed in God the way a drowning man believes in air. Desperate, choking, half-mad. He'd sit for hours, quoting scripture between drinks, cursing the boy for surviving where his wife had not. By 14, the kid could read the Bible, patch a wound, and start a fight before breakfast. He was smaller than most, but his eyes carried that strange light, the kind you see in animals caught between hunger and fear. He learned early that mercy was a story told by men with full bellies. One night, after another drunken beating, he left. No shoes, no family, no name worth keeping. Just the horizon and the sound of his own breath. He wandered west, through the wild bones of a country still trying to remember what it was. There were no rules out there, just dust and blood and the echo of gunfire. He fought when he had to, stole when he needed to, and slept wherever the stars didn't burn too bright. He was 15 when he killed his first man. A thief, older, meaner, and drunk enough to mistake a boy for prey. The kid slit his throat before the man could finish his sentence. He watched the blood run into the sand, bright as rust in the firelight, and for the first time, he felt something close to peace. They say once you take a life, something inside you quiets. But for the kid, it didn't. It woke. By the time he reached Texas, he'd already forgotten his own name. He rode with smugglers, gamblers, deserters, men with nothing left to lose. Each town blurred into the next. The same saloons, the same faces, the same smell of whiskey and sweat and sin. But one night near the border, the wind changed. He found himself surrounded by riders, armed, silent, and grinning like wolves. And at their center sat a man the kid would never forget. The judge, 2 meters tall, skin like marble left too long in the sun. No hair, no beard, no color in his eyes, only that terrible light, as if he could see through everything that ever was. He wore no hat, no gun, just a black coat and a smile. He looked at the boy and said, "There's no such thing as fate, only men too weak to see the pattern." Then he laughed. The sound carried over the desert like thunder. That night, the kid joined them, a company of killers, bounty hunters, and drifters, riding not for gold or glory, but for something deeper, for chaos itself. The judge led them through mountains and canyons, through towns that would later vanish from maps. They burned villages, hunted tribes, sold scalps to soldiers who'd lost count of the dead. Each massacre was another verse in the judge's grand sermon, a ritual of destruction dressed in reason. He'd sit by the fire, writing in a book made of human skin, recording names, symbols, fragments of stars. He said he was studying creation, dissecting it to find where God had gone wrong. When the men slept, the judge danced, naked, pale, his body glowing like bone beneath the flames. He played the violin with impossible grace, a melody so haunting that even the coyotes grew silent. And when the kid watched him, he felt that same stillness again, the same peace he'd felt the night he killed his first man. "War is God," the judge told him one night. "Not the God you pray to, but the one who listens when no one else will. He said all men are instruments, and only the violent ones know how to play. He said innocence is a lie told by the weak, and that the desert does not forgive lies. The kid didn't understand. Not then. But he listened. Because something in the judge's words felt older than truth. Weeks turned into months. The men thinned out, killed, lost, or swallowed by the wilderness. Only the kid and the judge remained. They rode together through a land that looked like the inside of a dying god. Bleached bones jutting from the sand, the sky cracked with heat. Sometimes they spoke of philosophy. Sometimes they spoke of nothing at all. The judge would pick up a handful of dirt, let it run through his fingers, and say, "Everything you see is borrowed, and one day the desert will take it back." The kid began to dream of him. Dreams where the judge grew taller with every step, his face stretching across the horizon, his laughter echoing through the stars. He tried to leave once. Walked 3 days without water, following the wind. But when he looked back, the judge was there, smiling, as if he'd been walking beside him all along. "You can't run from the thing that made you," he said. And the kid understood. He was trapped in something much larger than himself. Years passed. The boy became a man, but his soul stayed young and tired. He carried the same revolver, the same silence, the same question he could never name. Sometimes he saw the judge's shape in the firelight. Sometimes in his own reflection. He wondered if evil was born or learned, and whether he'd crossed the line between the two. One night, after a raid that left an entire village burning, the kid found himself alone by the fire. The judge approached, carrying that book again. "You've learned much," he said. "Enough to know there's no redemption waiting for you." The kid looked at him. "I never asked for redemption." The judge smiled. "That's why you might deserve it." Then he stood, spread his arms, and turned his face to the stars. "Look at it all," he said. "Creation. Endless, aimless, beautiful. And yet men still think they can own it. They build kingdoms, laws, gods, but everything ends here, in the dust." The kid said nothing. The fire crackled. The desert held its breath. When dawn came, the kid was gone. The judge searched for him for days, but the desert had already claimed another secret. Years later, in a border town, a man walked into a saloon. Older, scarred, eyes like dried blood. He sat alone, nursing a drink that had long gone warm. And across the room, the judge sat waiting. He hadn't aged a day. "You ran far," the judge said, "but not far enough." The kid stared at him. "What are you?" The judge leaned forward. "I am the dance," he said. "The one that began before man and will outlast him." He reached out, touching the kid's chest. "Inside you, the same fire burns. You can't hide from it." The kid drew his gun, his hand shaking, his voice low. "You're not God." The judge smiled. "I never claimed to be." The gun fired, and for a moment there was only silence. When the smoke cleared, the judge stood untouched. He took the gun, pressed it against his own heart, and whispered, "I am forever." Then he turned and walked into the dark. No one knows what became of the kid. Some say his body was found weeks later, half buried in sand. Others claim he vanished, leaving only footprints that led nowhere. But they say, on certain nights when the moon is full and the wind carries no sound, you can hear a violin playing across the desert, a melody older than sin, and a figure, tall and pale, dancing alone in the dust. The judge, still out there, still smiling, still waiting for another soul to join his endless waltz. And that is the tale of the judge and the kid. A story about the violence that shapes men, and the silence that remains when it's done. You've been listening to Chrono Tales, where time, myth, and human nature collide. Until next time, stay curious, stay human, and never stop looking into the dark.